Hi, everyone. Welcome to Smart City Institute Japan's webinar called Global Perspectives on Smart Cities. I'm Nagumo, Executive Managing Director of Smart City Institute Japan, your host of this session today. Today, we have our guest speakers from city of Barcelona, and our title today is Humanizing Technology, Barcelona's Commitment to this Digital Innovation. So let's invite today's distinguished speaker, Mr. Michael Donaldson, Commissioner of Technological Innovation, Electronic Administration, and Good Governance of City of Barcelona Council. So, Mr. Donaldson, welcome.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm honored to have you today. I know you're busy today, but thank you for joining us. And City of Barcelona, and we have been keeping good relationship. And we have a lot of respect to the city of Barcelona for smart city. So I'm very excited about having you today.
Thanks a lot. It's my great pleasure to share with you. And as you said, indeed, we've got good relationship with Tokyo, with Japan, with all of you. So I'm very, very happy to be here with you.
Thank you very much. For viewers, I would encourage you to write comments or questions to Mr. Donaldson through chat box. And when you write something, please choose all from the pull-down menu. That way we can share all the writings with all the viewers. And our game plan is to have Mr. Donaldson make some presentation first, and then we'll shift to the open discussion. All right, so without further ado, let's move on to presentation. So Mr. Donaldson, over to you.
Okay, so thanks again. As I was saying, it's a great pleasure to share with you this next hour. I'll try to go on for like 20 minutes or so. I just set my time here so I can control a little bit of my speech, because otherwise I could be talking for hours. But as you said, it would be very interesting if we have some little bit of conversation afterwards. And of course, I would be delighted to know your own experience, because you are also a reference for us. So I think it would be much better if we kind of enter in a dynamic of exchange knowledge and experiences rather than me talking about Barcelona. But anyway, as you kindly asked me to make a first introduction on Barcelona, on Barcelona's model, on Barcelona's idea, on Barcelona's narrative around the smart city, and this concept that you said, humanizing technology, that's the concept we are working on now. Let me share, as I said, a first presentation about that. So yeah, basically we started. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of history. It's not going to take me long. It's in fact it's a short period of history, because it only goes back for the last 10 years or so. We're talking basically about when we started developing and deploying all our projects and our idea on a smart city. I'd say that we started more or less like in 2010, so that's only 11 years ago now. In fact, we started with launching our Smart City Expo. You well know this Expo because you've been here several times. We've had a lot of cities and Japan itself, the government of Japan, we had them in Barcelona. So in fact, we are going to celebrate our 10th anniversary on next week, starting on the 16th, on Tuesday. It's going to go on till Thursday, till 18th of November. It's going to be the 10th Smart City Expo. So as I said, more or less, we started developing our idea on the smart city. And I'd say, basically, it would be like any other smart city, any other city that they were deploying their idea on smart city. We're talking basically about how to gather all the information that arises from the city. And let me put in a kind of an illustration, kind of an example. We're talking mainly and basically about the information that the skin of the city can give us. We're talking about sensors. We sensorize the whole city. So we were able to get information of the transport, public transport, of mobility, of course, of pollution, of illumination, of how was the quality of our parks, and so on. So basically, that's the information that the skin of the city can give us. That's more or less the classical idea of a smart city. How to gather information. The better information, the better knowledge you have of what's going on in the city. So the better knowledge you have of what's going on in the city, the better decisions you can make. I mean, there's a lot of pollution. Well, you shut down the traffic. There's a lot of people taking the underway or the bus or whatever at 8 o'clock in certain street. Well, you might have to put more convoys or more buses or wherever. So it's this kind of information. If the information gets there in real time, it's even much better in order, as I said, to take decisions. So this is basically as I said, the classical idea of a smart city. We started like after 5 years, so that puts us in the middle of the last decade. We started working under the idea of, it wasn't that we excluded the idea of smart city, rather that we added a new layer. We shifted into this new concept of what we call smart citizens. So now it's not only about gathering the smartness that the city can give us, but also about the smartness, the knowledge, the information of what the citizens of Barcelona can give us. Because, I mean, of course, the citizens of Barcelona might not be engineers in transit or in traffic or in pollution. They might not be experts or they might not be professionals on that, but so they haven't got proper knowledge about all these aspects, but what they certainly have is knowledge about the city, because they live in the city. They kind of wake up in the city, they go to their work or to wherever, by bicycle, walking, by public transport, by cars. They enjoy the city. They go to the restaurants or to cafes or to theaters or cinemas or wherever. They interact all the time with the rest of the citizens. So kind of they've got their hopes, they've got their dreams, they've got their fears as well. They've got the things they like about the city, but also the things they dislike about the city. So that's a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, a lot of collective knowledge, in fact, that we have to listen, that we have to gather, that we have to collect, and we have to share it or mix it with the kind of the information that the skin of the city gives us. So now we have got the information about the city, the skin, we've got information about brain and soul of the city, and that's what it really makes a smart city. So we basically launch what we call the CIDIM. The CIDIM, it's a word in Catalan. It means we decide. It's a digital platform that allows participation, that allows interaction through this digital platform with the government. It allows us to listen to what's going on the ideas of the citizens. So there's a lot of deliberation, there's a lot of proposals, there's also some criticism as well, which I think is good. And there's also a lot of co-creation and co-construction of certain process or certain decisions. For example, and let me come down to earth and point you out one of this participation process that we had this year, this 2021. We put the decision of people, of the citizens of Barcelona. We put 30 million euros in order to decide, for them to decide the investment of these 30 millions. So the idea basically was, okay, you can give us your own proposals. I want to make a park here. I want to make a library here. I want to widen up this street. I want to take cars off the street. I want to put the bicycles in a bicycle lane. So the different proposals that came from the cities, from the citizens, they were all in the platform, in this digital platform. And once they were technically evaluated, if they passed that cut, they were submitted for the vote of the citizens. So that's what happens. That's what happened. I mean, there were like 30,000 people. Good thing about this platform is that you need to be registered. So it's not good to kind of hide from an anonymous profile. You need to be registered. You need to prove yourself that you're a citizen of Barcelona. So yeah, we had this good experience. So 30,000 people decided what was going to be the investment for the next couple of years. And the sum is 30 million euros, which is, well, I mean, it's not the whole budget for our investment, but it's pretty big. It's, you can do a lot of things with 30 million people. So this example gives us the idea of what we want to do when we're talking about a smart citizen, not only a smart city, but a smart citizen. So we were working under this idea, that this concept, and more or less when the pandemic came, a little bit before, we started working with this new idea, trying to add a new layer, shifting from the smart city and the smart citizen to this new idea of what we talk, of what we point out, like technological, like humanized technological, or technological humanized, or digital humanized, if you want. Basically, the idea is to put people, is to put persons at the center of all the technological disruptions. Because these last 20 years have witnessed as many as digital and technological disruption as all the digital disruptions in the history of the mankind. So only in this short period of history, in terms of our world, only in this, as I said, this short period of history, 20 years, there's been as many as digital disruptions as all history of our mankind. This means a lot. I mean, it means so much that there's no one who can try to understand, to manage, to cope all these digital disruptions. I mean, the thing about new technologies is that they are not new technologies because after they are new, there's a new one. So this and that new one becomes old technological disruption, and there's another new one, but there's a new one coming. So it's all about impossible. It's impossible to try to understand, to manage all these disruptions. So basically, what we try to do is, okay, well, this is not about technology. This is not about technology. This is about people, and this is about how the technology is at the service of people's need. So it's not people for technology, it's technology for people. It's not technology for data, it's not technology for technology, it's not technology for infrastructure. Of course, this is very important. I mean, we are deploying 5G, we are working with the IoT, so buildings can talk to each other. And of course, this is very important, and we are still working on that. But we have to kind of shift the purpose, the focus, and it has to be human-centered in that sense. So, because otherwise, what's the good thing about so much disruption, technological disruption, if we cannot use it? If we cannot use it for the benefit of our citizens? Because basically, this is what City Hall or public administration do, work for the benefit or for improving the quality of life of our citizens. And with this idea that I think that I think it was a great success from our point of view, because what we have witnessed with the pandemic, and especially with the lockdown, is this hyper digitalization of our lives. I mean, it's now kind of, we're living in hybrid times. We're living times where the digital and presence and being inside is kind of mixed. We cannot disassociate these two dimensions. They all go together, and maybe before the pandemic, the digital dimension was a little bit like this, and the rest was all our kind of real life. But now it's kind of the same. I mean, with the lockdown, we all had to work. Well, not all, but a lot of people had to work from the houses, and that was because we had a laptop and internet, and our kids, they had to attend to school from the houses. Nobody would imagine that before the pandemic. We started consuming all these TV shows and all this culture, leisure, and things. We started on internet, buying things through the internet, having our meetings with our friends. at the time where we were locked down, we weren't able to gather with friends or families. So it was all through the screens. So, and now this is going to stay with us. I mean, we're not going back. We might not be incorporating all things. Of course, we're going to gather with families to have dinner or lunch on Sunday or on weekends. But there's no way back to these kind of hybrid lives we are now on, because it brings us a lot of potential. It brings us a lot of benefits. So I wanted to point out. So I think, so as I said before, I think it was a kind of a little bit success, not a pandemic, of course, but our idea of humanizing technology, because what it shows us after the COVID is this kind of digitalization of the world. Let me put an example through those worst days when we're down in lockdown and so on. We've got a network of fab labs, of public fab labs. The fab labs, you know, it's equipment where you go and through 3D with the printer machines, with the 3D printer machines, you can make all kinds of stuff and materials, and your idea becomes a project, and your project becomes a reality. So we've got 6 of these equipments under the public equipments of fab labs. The difference between some of the fab labs is that this is totally public, so it's open to all our citizens. We've got different programs, especially for kids. We are working with the schools. They bring their project, their idea, and they develop it. And it's a good way to access to technology. It's also very good to kind of all the talent and all the future technology careers that they might want to have. This is the first kind of activation of the brain, because they can touch the technology. I mean, sometimes we are afraid, do I delete? Do I touch this button? What's going to happen? It's going to explode or not? So it's a way of helping them and going with them through these 3D printers. So that's basically what we were doing before the pandemic. And when the pandemic came, we realized that was going to be impossible because everybody was locked down, so no one could come. So basically, on the same first day that they were in lockdown, we saw, as many other parts in the world, there were lack of the EIPs, of the individual protection equipment. There were no masks at that time. We're talking about March last year. So we started with the 3D printers. We started making these masks, these plastic masks. And we, along with a lot of community of makers, we didn't do it ourselves. We led the equipment, we led the machines, we organized a logistical center, and we started developing all these masks and send them to the hospitals and the social workers and the people in the supermarkets, all the people that were, when they didn't have, I mean, maybe they weren't the 100% EIPs, but it was better than going to the street without anything. So that's what we did that. So now I wanted to point you out 2 more actions that we are currently developing under this idea of humanizing technology. Let me point you out, first of all, our strategy on AI. AI, and you surely know it much better than me, AI is going to be one of those digital disruptions, kind of digital revolutions, in fact, and it's already happening. It's already happening, but I don't know in Japan, but here in Europe, here in Spain, in Barcelona, it hasn't got the impact of in the public sector as it should have. We're basically kind of far away from this revolution. So we better start having an honest strategy in order, when we have to use this AI technology, in order to use it in a proper way. Because we know for a fact that AI brings us a lot of benefits. It can automate a lot of the decisions. So in that sense, it's good because it can take work away from our workers. That doesn't mean to get rid of our civil servants, but have them doing quality things instead of doing automatical or more boring things. So basically, AI can help us in that way. AI can help us, and that's what we're working now. We're working in a data lake to have all the important information of our citizens in order to shift from a reactive administration to a proactive administration based on data and AI. That basically means that if we get to know our citizens, if we can gather the data, of course, it has to be under the consent. We've got a strict law at the European and Spanish level. So if we have this data, we know their profiles, we can send them information, we can send them public digital services, we can send them subsidies, economic grants, funds, wherever, based on their profiles. You know, it's kind of the same idea of when Netflix or HBO or all these TV shows, film platforms, they send us an email on Friday night and say, well, according to what you have watched, you might like to see this film. And there is an algorithm there based on your personal data. Well, we should be able to do the same. I mean, if Netflix does it, why are we not going to do it if we want to deliver public services? Because we're talking about that figures that shows us that at the European level, there's 30% of these public grants, subsidies, economic helps, there's 30% of these that they are lost because people who are potential to have them, they don't even know they exist. So we're talking about 30% of the budget at the beginning of the year that we know for a fact that's going to be lost. Because what is even worse, that the people who should get in those helps, and we're talking about economic helps that can help them in order to buy a flat or to rent a flat, or the school food for the kids. We're talking about basic things that they kind of create the welfare state. We know for a fact that's going to be lost. And it should get to those people. And if it doesn't get to those people, we should move that money in better things, because otherwise it's a loss. Well, if we had the information, we should get in touch and make it easier for the citizens instead of coming them to ask for these grants. So that's what we are working under, this idea of this new strategy on AI. We're working on that. And another point, and this is also very important, we know for a fact that AI based on poor data or biased data or bad data, it can create some discrimination. It can affect the human rights. And now in these hybrid times we're living, as we said before, we're not talking only about human rights, we're also talking about digital rights, which is basically the same. We cannot talk about human rights without digital rights. And we know for a fact, we've seen some examples here in Europe, how they use the bias data and the use of this algorithm. If it doesn't put the people at the center of the designing of these algorithms, it can create some discrimination. Let me point you out an example that happened last year in the UK, that happened in England. During the lockdown in June 2020, they had to do their exams, their A-levels. Their A-levels are the access to university. So we're talking about people from 18 years old deciding what their future was going to be, what career you're going to study, and that kind of be a very important point in your life. So you normally go and do these exams to access to university, to decide your career, depending on the marks. But the thing is that with the lockdown, they weren't able to go and do the exams. So the government, UK government, decided that they were going to do that they were going to decide the marks of the students through an algorithm. And that algorithm was going to add their personal profile, the personal academic record, or the marks they had in their personal profile, academic marks, as I said, and they were going to mix it with the academic record of the school center they were studying. So that meant, especially for those students that had good marks, but they were studying in vulnerable or low-income school centers that they usually have worse marks than the rest of the other schools. That meant that people with high marks, individual, they saw how their mark went down because the algorithm mixed it with the historic academic marks on the school center they were studying, and that meant at the end of the day that a lot of people weren't able to study the career they wanted. Well, there was such a big unrest about that finally the government had to pull back, and they had to wait to go back to do the exams when the pandemic wasn't that bad, and they had to, as I said, pull back. So someone thought it was brilliant, and maybe in their minds it was brilliant to use the algorithm, so they were able to decide the future of their young students. But at the end of the day, we saw how maybe it was at the beginning a good idea. We saw how a good idea turned into a bad idea and turned to affect the rights of their students in that sense. So that's why we have to be very keen on the ethical that surrounds the use of AI. And in fact, we need to be concerned about all the ethical issues that arises when we use emergent technology. Because, well, we might not be experts with public administration, we might not be experts on how to use technology, because of course we haven't got software developers or programmers in our organizations, but we are experts on guaranteeing rights and delivering public services. And that's something we've got a word to say. And no matter if it's AI or big data or IoT or 5G or wherever, we need, as I said, we need to be very careful on that. And let me just use my last couple of minutes. 25 minutes now on. Let me use my couple of minutes to talk to you about something that we're also working, and it's in our agenda right now. We're talking about digital divide. We're talking about how in these hybrid times, in this digitalization society we're living now, those who haven't got access to internet, those who haven't got the access to proper devices, and those who haven't got the capacitation, they haven't got the training, or even the alphabetization to use internet, they're going to be left behind. We're talking about a new phase of social exclusion, because nowadays the access to internet, it's kind of the access to the rest of our rights, the rights to work, the rights to study, the right to relationship, the rights of a lot of things. If we are kind of out of the digital system, we are also kind of out of the real life. So we discovered that there's a lot of people. Maybe there's not a lot of people who haven't got access to internet. We carried on a survey here in Barcelona. 1% of the population hasn't got access to internet due to economic issues. But what we discovered is that there's a lot of people who have got a smartphone or who has internet at home, but they don't know how to use it. So there's no, I mean, it's like having a big fancy car, but you're not, and with a lot of petrol, but you haven't got your driving license. So that's good. What do you want? Why do you want that such a big car and a lot of fuel, a lot of gasoil in the tank if you're not going to take it out in the street? Because internet is an access to the rest of rights, but it's also a way to empower yourself. It's also a way to transform the quality of your life. So we are launching different initiatives and different projects in order to tackle this new problem that has arisen in the agenda due to the COVID. So, Mr. Nagumo, I currently went on for 5 more minutes that I said, but I think I can leave it here from now and see if we can open a debate about this or any other matter related to smart cities.
Thank you very much for the excellent presentation, Mr. Donaldson. So let me have a conversation with you. And for viewers, it's time to have some comments or questions to the chat box, if you may. And in the meantime, let me start asking you a question, Mr. Donaldson. So thank you for the description, explanation about the kind of historical background, which was very interesting to me. And I look at the city of Barcelona's smart city documents from time to time, and I discover smart citizens instead of smart cities more often than not, right? And then I think it's, I understood that, that's a frequently used term in Barcelona's paper. And if you look at the other cities, let's say Estonia, maybe different term, China, maybe different term. So once you peel off the skin, you have more important message engraved in the documents. And why it's that, I would say Barcelona is the very first and unique city that first termed smart citizens in the world. No other cities have ever defined the purpose of the smart digitalization as the smart citizens. And so I was interested in why Barcelona was, maybe without any intention, but naturally focused on the concept of the smart citizens. Well, what's the cultural ethos or, the kind of core value? I can't see from the outside, but what's the message from it?
Yeah, it's not easy to answer. It's a very interesting question. It's not easy to answer it in an easy way, and it's something that, in fact, it would deserve a good study about the different causes, because I think there are different explanations on this idea. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Barcelona, it's not really big. It's 1.6 million population, which means, of course, there's less population than Tokyo, London, or New York, and Paris. We've got no interest in kind of compete, because it's kind of a big city with a lot of services, with a lot of history, a lot of heritage, and so on. But at the same time, it's pretty small in the sense, it's not that we all know each other, that doesn't happen, but it's kind of pretty the dimension of the population allows to bring on a lot of participation and a lot of collaboration. It's also a very compact city. We've got the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, so there is no way we can expand our city from the sea. We've got the big Collserola. These are our big mountains that surrounds Barcelona. In fact, it's the biggest metropolitan park of the world, not because of Barcelona, but because around this metropolitan park there are 20 more cities smaller than Barcelona, but creates a metropolitan area with these big mountains, which gives us, and now to fight against climate change, it's a kind of a treasure we have. So it's not a pretty big city in terms of dimensions, and it's pretty compact. So it helps us a lot to get the people involved in our city. Now there's a famous, this Paris, they are working on this famous idea of the city of 15 minutes, that it means that from your house walking to any public equipment, such as school, libraries, health center, it should only take you 15 minutes. Well, in fact, in Barcelona, it's really happening, has happened all our lives. We are divided in 73 neighborhoods. There's 3 of them that they are kind of very away from the center, that maybe they haven't got this idea of 15 minutes walk, but the rest of them, it creates. Then Barcelona has got a very strong civil society, a lot of NGOs, a lot of foundations, a lot of think tanks that they are very involved. And I would say that as well, during the Olympics, during Barcelona 92, during our Olympic Games, there was a great merge about public and private entrepreneur in order to organize the Olympic Games. It wasn't only a public initiative, but rather a mix of private and public collaboration, participation. We changed the face, or we opened ourselves to the sea. Barcelona hardly had any beaches now. It's one of our main attractives. We've got 5 kilometers beach. It created new infrastructure, new equipments, new neighborhoods. It transformed our industrial neighborhoods into more business and living centers. And that was all with the participation of the people. So I think that kind of that idea keeps on. So when we're talking about the impact of digital, there's no other way that we can do it without the participation of our citizens.
So am I correct to say that the natural surroundings, the rivers on both sides, ocean, one from mountain, the other side, right? So it's got ring road is surrounding the natural boundary, I would say.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, right. Then the people are inside, making more community-oriented, more socially cohesive to work together or communicate to each other. That's a kind of foundation for the, I would say, democracy or participation in the society of Barcelona. Am I correct?
Yeah. That's a great definition. Yeah.
Okay. And so I guess that you are already shifting towards digital democracy in the sense that based upon the original sense of community and democracy, then adding digital layer to it, making citizens more smarter, right?
Yeah. We're currently working on this idea. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I just noticed that your title indicates something. You are a Commissioner of Technological Innovation, Electronic Administration, and Good Governance. And good governance piece actually caught my eyes. And you talked about the digital divide, participation, proactive delivery of administrative services. Could you talk a little bit about what your good governance would mean?
Yeah. When we're talking about good governance, we're talking about, and you will see that's a little bit related to what I said before. When we're talking about good governance, we are talking about open government. And now currently we're working under this idea of participation, of transparency, and of transparent politicals, and what I was going to say, and integrity, the ethics on the public servants and the ethics of our politicians. So as you can see, and especially when it comes to participation, we are talking about active citizens. We are talking about the involvement of the people in the process of decisions. When we're talking about transparency, we're talking about not only transparency, but I would say, and we're trying to work, it's a little bit difficult for us to be honest, we're talking about not only transparency, but also on accountability. Not only talking about what we do, but how we do that, how much money we spend, why we are doing that, and we are not doing other things, because at the end of the day, it's all about priorities. We wish we would be able to do a lot of things, but resources are limited. So we need to establish our priorities, but we need to explain them, and we need to say why we are doing A and we are not doing B, on why we're doing V instead of C. And then the last issue I was pointing out is integrity, the ethics, to be kind of example attitudes and actions. It's not only about what you say, but what you do. And when we are holding public charges or public representation, we need to be very specific on when it comes to ethics and integrity.
Thank you very much. It's a kind of a deep philosophical discussion for people in general, and I think that's why I think I respect the city of Barcelona. And if you look into our society here, Japan, when you talk about smart city, people will instantly think about autonomous driving, flying cars, drones, just a technology first, right? So people are fascinated with the technology first, and remember anime or science fiction movie and so forth, and forget about what's more important, just like you mentioned, the ethics and the transparency, accountability, more policy related items, because it's kind of heavy items to talk about amongst the people in general. But is that something, you talk about, let's say you would see on the newspaper or TV or media? Is that already, part of daily life?
Sorry, what was the question now? I missed you, missed you.
Right. So, people usually are attracted by futuristic vision.
Yeah.
And, forget about the ethics, integrity, accountability. Those are heavy lifting part of it. So, people don't touch about it and, just look at only the bright side, right? And how about, people in general in Barcelona? Do they talk about those ethics and policy related items in a daily conversation?
Well, of course they don't. I mean, it would be a little bit of insane if you were talking about. I'd say that all these instruments that we have, we need to have them because for the quality of our democracy and the quality of our good government. So, I mean, it comes with the work we do. I cannot be any other way. And it doesn't matter if people talk about it or it doesn't talk about it. It's what we really have to, So, of course, they are not worried on the daily basis about integrity. But if there is corruption, they would be worried, So nothing happens until it happens. So what we have to do is that nothing happens at all. Because once it's done, all the trust that we are trying to earn from our citizens disappears in a headline. So, I mean, it's hard because it takes a lot, to build that trust, but you can lose it in a glimpse. So I'd say it doesn't matter if people are talking or not talking. We have to do it. We have to do it.
I see. Okay, thank you very much. And maybe the last question. I'm trying to be mindful of your time. So last question. So you talked about proactive administration, giving an example of the Netflix. And that's a wonderful idea. After digitalizing the basic administrative services, the next step is to make it push out from the government side to the citizens, automatic delivery, right? And in Japan, we talk about that on concept, just a concept level first, right? And looking around other cities in the world, maybe in Estonia, or Barcelona, or Nordic countries, all cities or advanced countries started to talk about proactive service, proactive digitalization, right? And I was wondering how far you have already gone in that regard.
No, we're let me be honest, we're just starting. We just launched our strategy, where I'll try to Google it after now and share it with you in the chat. No, but let me be very honest, we're just starting with this strategy. We have set in the fundamental ideas. What we're working basically, and it's something that we're going to have finished by the end of this year, it's going to be to build that data lake and to have all the relevant information of our citizens in the same data lake. So we can go and fish for this data afterwards. But we're still a little bit far away because it means change of mentality of the way we're working. It's not about digital transformation, it's about culture transformation of our organizations. Again, the technology, it's only the driver. Again, the technology, it's only the mean, the way. It's not the mean. It's what's going to help us. But what we need to transform is the organization. It's kind of upside down because it's kind of very, very easy and comfortable to be here at the sitting in the office and doing all your work, and people coming there on a queue and you give them what they are. But we're talking about the other idea, it means to go out there, talk to citizens and see what they need and gather the information. And it's always cold outside. It's always very warm and cozy inside. So it means a whole change. Of course, the information systems have to go along, and the technology, especially algorithms and AI, and good data needs to be constructed. But at the end of the day, it's a cultural, it's a transformation of the whole organization rather than a digital transformation. And no, let me be honest, we've got this idea, we've got this strategy, but we're still working on it.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think it's about time to complete. And thank you very much for your participation and contribution. And I wish to continue the conversation and collaboration with City of Barcelona. Thank you for attending this session today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
See you in Barcelona next year at the World.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye now. Hi, Kudo-san.
Yes. So thank you very much, Mr. Donaldson, for attending our webinar today, despite your very, very busy time. And programs for Smart City Japan webinar will be posted on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and the past videos can be viewed on YouTube channel. And next week, we are going to have Estonia Week from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. With regards to cybersecurity, data exchange infrastructure called X-Road, and also internet voting. So we would like to see you again next week. And I would skip about Smart City Institute Japan, but our membership is growing and members are growing and number is 480 now. So again, thank you very much for watching our webinar today, and please have a nice weekend. Thank you and bye-bye.